If you own a small business or have a side hustle and you're struggling with how to grow it drastically, then on this episode, I'm going through 5 areas that you could focus on today to help improve that.
Gladiator in this art of war. What you think that I've been fighting for? Got a cape on like a superhero. They rushing at me like a matador. Nah, I don't need your energy. I don't need the negativity. I'm just trying to bring my people up. Promise y'all I got the remedy. Straight to the roof, tell them we bringing the troops. We got a little surprise, you thinking that we ain't the truth. We give it 120, we never make an excuse. So go run and tell everybody doubting that we coming for you.
So the first question you have to ask yourself with your side hustle or your business is there a market for it? Is it providing value to people? And is there a market for it based on what type of growth you want to see? You got to really compare your goals of where you want to take it and what it is that you're doing, because it might not be scalable. So you really need to audit yourself and really be honest with yourself, because there's no point of beating your head up against the wall and saying, this is what I want to do, and it's just not working. Then you get frustrated, and then you're going to lose energy, and you're going to lose hope, and you're going to lose motivation. So you really got to audit that. The second thing is, do you have a niche? So when I first started MFG Tribe, we were a digital marketing agency with the intent of focusing on industrial companies, but we weren't, flagging the sand saying this is all that we do. Now, when you go to our website, it's we only do digital, and it's only with industrial. But when I first started 6 years ago, it wasn't like that. So I talked to people, and people found us and said, hey, I own this type of company. Can you do the marketing for us? It fit with what we can execute on. Their niche, their service industry wasn't something that I was passionate about. But after we took on those customers, I'm like, I don't even want to market for this business because I don't even believe in what it is that they sell. And so I had to sit with that and say, you know what? I don't want to work with companies like that. What I love at the end of the day is helping people grow their businesses and achieve their dreams, right? That's at my core. That's my passion. Now, the vehicle which I feel like I could do that best is with industrial and manufacturing companies. And so I had to say, look, I know how big I can take this business. I have caps with it based on the market. And so I'm okay with where we could end up in 3 to 5 years at reaching the ceiling, or 10 years. I'm okay with that. But for right now, I only want to work with industrial companies. So it limits it for a little bit from the standpoint, the niching, but it does make you an expert in that space. So for us, we are not just another digital marketing agency. We are an industrial marketing agency. We only work with industrial companies. So if that's all that we do, then people tend to trust that more. People tend to look at you and say, you really know this stuff. Some people have said in the past, riches are in the niches. I would agree with that to a certain extent, but there is a case that you could niche down too far and put yourself into a pigeonhole if you're looking to get bigger. So regardless of what your small business is, what your side hustle is, audit what your end goal is and how big you want to take that, and then look at, are you providing enough value to be able to reach that? And then is your niche too focused or is it too broad? And really sit with that. The next area that we're going to go into is going to be on the finances side. And these are things that you could do today. So looking at your finances in 2 key areas, your costs and your pricing. So let's talk about the cost from a standpoint. And this is just learning from my own mistakes. In general, you might be overlooking areas of improvement to be able to save money. Now, I want to preface that by saying that, when I grew up, I was always taught to do a budget because my parents had a fixed income. So it's like, you make this much a month, do a budget it down, and whatever you have left over is savings. The issue with that, and I think it was probably 10 years ago or something like that, a wise person told me, dude, your issue isn't your budget, your issue is your income. And so as long as you're not spending money on stupid things, then look at the issue more from the standpoint of your income. Because if you have a high enough income, you worry less about the budget. But as a business owner, I'm sure that there's been costs that have been added that maybe you forgot about, even if it's $50 a month, $100 a month, subscriptions, things like that. I've made every mistake there, and we've had things and I forgot to cancel them. It could add up to $400, $500, $600 a month. Really audit that. Your cost is the fastest way that you can save money right now. Income, yes, you can focus on it, but first tighten up the ship. Make sure there's no holes in it. Look at your costs. Look at all of your expenses that you have. See what you can stop spending today to be able to save some money and increase your profit numbers. I made the mistake years ago when we were growing is I brought in too many people. So my costs were going through the roof, and then it was hurting the company from a profitability standpoint. If I kept making that same mistake as our revenue goes up, and then I start bringing in more people and more expenses and more costs, then it's just the ratio is not good enough. The ideal state is you want to have a team that when you do bring on a new client, that it's not like you have to double or increase your team expenses to be able to make up for handling that person. Ideally, you have a certain capacity and you bring in 1, 2, 3 more clients, or you sell a lot more of your product, but you don't have to double your team from it. So the team is the third step. You need to make sure that you grow your team strategically and not just triple down on something because you get excited with some growth. When I first started the business, it was just me. I didn't know anything about web development, things like that, so I had to learn it. I had to build out the systems, build out the processes. I was the owner, the salesperson, the person executing on it. And then after I got my first client and my second and third client, then I said, okay, I've got some revenue, it's covering expenses. Now I need to be able to bring in somebody underneath me that can handle some of those tasks. So ideally what you're trying to do is you're trying to duplicate yourself, but it can take a portion of it, right? Because if you're just starting out, you're not going to be able to pay somebody $60, $80, $100,000 a year to do everything that is that you do, nor do you need that person. But it's like, for us, it was bringing in a project manager. So you had to bring in a project manager that can manage the clients, that can execute on what it is that we say that we're going to do with the rest of the team, and then start taking things off of my plate, sliding them onto other people's plates. And then that's the best way to build a team. But if you audit your team right now, you might have too many people. And that goes back to the expenses. Look at your costs with your team. You really want to look at, what is my true cost behind that? And am I getting the most out of it? Now, there are times where you're paying for people's time and they're not fully booked, which is perfectly fine if you know long-term that they will be booked up. But people can spend a lot of money growing their team the wrong way, and then you end up canceling out and saying, all right, I don't need this person anymore. I'm going to scale us back, get us small again, build out the system again. Just don't make that same mistake. And ideally, from a team member standpoint, you don't want to have somebody that only focuses on one specific area. So if you have a project manager and all they do is manage projects, can they also manage clients? Can they also manage the team, systems, SOPs? You're going to want those people to wear multiple hats, not a jack of all trades, master of none, but you want them to at least cover 2 or 3 areas that are under their belt. And then as you grow and scale, you ask that person, is this what you want to do? Like, out of what you've been doing, what do you like the most? And if they say, I like this thing the most, all right, cool. I'm going to bring in a support team to take those other things off of you. Your employees happy, makes you happy, clients are happy, everything's good. Looking at the fourth area, it's going to be marketing. You can spend a lot of money at agencies on marketing, and you can waste a lot of money. You have to try and at all possible do it grassroots. So doing everything organic, unless you know for a fact that an advertising campaign is going to produce such significant results, which you can never guarantee that. Everything that you do has to be organic. You've got to roll up your sleeves, do it yourself. You can learn everything that you need on YouTube. I literally 6 years ago didn't know how to develop a website. I needed to build my own company's website. So I watched YouTube. It was just over 120 hours because I added it all up of consuming content on how to build a website, web development, web processing, all that stuff. Built my own website before I started pushing the company out there from a brand standpoint. But everything that you want, you can learn on YouTube. You don't have to be an expert, okay? You just need to know enough to be dangerous, and you could do that. And for SEO, there's only like 5 or 6 key areas. Now that we've been doing it for 6 years and we do it for clients, I would say that on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm probably at like an 8 when it comes to SEO, 7 or an 8, because it's not 100% of my focus. But doing that first and looking at that first, the reason why you have to do that is that's a long-term play. It's not going to happen overnight, you showing up in search results. And you also have to consider what should your searches be. So it's a process that you have to establish that strategy. I originally did not pay anybody to do that for me. I just learned, used my critical thinking skills, and then executed on it, tested it, did it work, track it. It didn't work, make adjustments. I mean, it was all grassroots. And you could do a lot of the marketing yourself. Now, it comes to graphics and things like that. If you don't know anything about colors and shapes and fonts and how things look good and all that stuff, you can find freelancers on places like Fiverr and Upwork and stuff like that. You can find people that you can hire to do that if that's something that you don't want to touch. But from an organic standpoint, the core things of your marketing, is my SEO good to grow the business? Do I need to change my meta title and descriptions? Am I doing any sort of email marketing or list capturing on my website? Those are all different areas that you can look at from a marketing standpoint, because it's all about brand, and say, am I focusing my attention in the right areas? From a social standpoint, are you focusing on the right areas? Everybody wants to go to Facebook, but if you're B2B, it's all about LinkedIn. It's not about Twitter. It's not about Facebook. It's not about Instagram, unless you're doing something that looks cool. If you're in B2B, all your attention is on LinkedIn. And how you do that, you can check out my YouTube channel. We've got tons of videos on how to blow up on LinkedIn from a company page standpoint, what content to create. We really got to sit back and say, like, audit my results. Am I going down the right path? You do not need to invest $15,000 into systems or $10,000 into HubSpot licenses. You can do things on a shoestring budget. You can get HubSpot for $49 a month. You can do everything organic. You can build it and grow it as you continue to build and grow your business. So marketing is a long-term play. That's the way that sales are driven these days. It's no longer direct selling. So you have to spend as much time in the marketing aspect of it as you can. If that's not your forte, like I said, go to YouTube, subscribe to my content. I put everything out there for free. Nothing is blocked with email addresses or gates. There's tons of people out there that are putting content out there to teach you how to market. It's a really simple process. Don't think it's overwhelming at all, even if it's not an area that you love. But that is what's going to get you down the road faster and get that growth a lot quicker if you start focusing on marketing. The fifth area is going to be sales. So sales revenue. If you've got a larger company and you've got a sales team, audit their activity, because sales can be a black hole of money. Paying people significant incomes, but not auditing their performance and their KPIs and stuff like that is a way that you could get into it 3, 4 months, 6 months down the road, and then sit back and be like, this person didn't do anything for me. I wasn't training them. I wasn't pushing them. And then now, you've lost the money of their income times 6 months or however long they've been on for, but more importantly, you've lost time. So it's all about time. In sales, they have to be doing everything all at the same time. They have to be pushing as hard as possible every single day and at least moving the ball down the field. The number one reason why a business fails is lack of sales. And it's that simple. And you may be thinking, no, like if their operating expenses are too high or whatever, besides any sort of legal issues or things like that, new revenue fixes all issues. If you've got a spending problem, revenue can mitigate that. You're not going to go out of business if you've got new revenue coming in. The process standpoint, your SOPs, your team structure, all that stuff, businesses fail because they don't have enough revenue. It should be the most important area that you need to focus on to grow your business is new opportunities. And if you're not the type of person that's going to go and do it, you need to partner with somebody that is, even if it means selling a portion of your company. I mean, that's something like, I'm not an operations guy. I'm a sales guy. I'm sales and marketing. I'm forward thinking. I'm visionary. And so if I needed an operations person to come in and just take over everything, 5 years ago, because I just couldn't handle it, then I would have said, hey, you come in and be my COO in charge of my operations, and I'll give you, 10, 15% of the business just right off the bat, and you're in it with me. And so you might want to look at that as it depending on how big your business is. If you need that key player, telling them that I'm going to give them equity right away could be beneficial to kind of mitigate the risk that they're taking to get into a quote unquote startup type company. But sales has to be the focus of somebody that's at a higher up, because you can bring in a salesperson, that's great, but if somebody above them doesn't understand to be able to audit them and check them, then it could be somewhat of a slippery slope to get into it, to be able to say, yes, you're doing this right, yes, you're doing this wrong. So those are the 5 areas that I feel like you can focus on today, make changes, audit today to help your small business grow. If you guys got value out of this content, please share it with one person you know. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow me on LinkedIn, and we're going to be doing these events 3 days a week. So make sure that you stay tuned for all of our content, and we will see you on the next one.